Well, Real Madrid completely steamrolled Chelsea here. 2-0 comfortable victory, and I think a lot of people were really expecting this result to happen, to be completely honest. But the thing is, Chelsea still have a lifeline here. Like, 2-0 is not a horrible result. I've got a question for everyone that's potentially going to be watching. I'm going to pose it again later on in the stream. Would you rather be in Chelsea's position or Bayern Munich's position? Because despite the fact that Chelsea were reduced to 10 men, despite the fact that Chelsea didn't have much on the break and Real Madrid were fairly comfortable throughout the whole match, they still have a lifeline here. Being only 2-0 down isn't horrible. It's not a terrible result. On the stream here yesterday when I was reacting to Man City versus Bayern Munich, I was saying that you got to stay in the game. If you're not playing your best, at least stay in the fixture. And for Chelsea, I said even if they go back to Stamford Bridge being only down by 1 goal, it probably still is a good result for Chelsea. They're down by 2 goals here, but it's not the end of the world given how the match went, given how they were down. Let's be honest, reduced to 10 men with 30 or so minutes to go. I was really expecting Chelsea to get blown away here. But they only conceded 1 more goal and they go back to Stamford Bridge only 2-0 down. It's not a terrible result by any stretch of imagination, especially given how many would think the match would go. The tie isn't necessarily over. I think a lot of people would expect Real Madrid to go through, especially from this stage they're in right now. But Chelsea fans can't be sitting here and thinking the game is completely over. They just don't score enough goals, man. And again, Chelsea failing to score. I think it's been 5.5 hours now before they've last scored a goal. It's absolutely terrible how they're unable to put the ball in the back of the net. For all the money they've spent, unable to sign a proper striker to do so. Let's just hope for Chelsea they can turn this around in the second leg because the game is still alive for them. Milan derby UEFA Champions League semi-final would be awesome. It's looking that way. AC Milan won 1-0 against Napoli today at the San Siro. It's a good result for them. It's not the best result, especially given that Napoli are missing one of their best strikers in Victor Osimhen. I think AC Milan would have liked to score a couple more goals, especially being at home as well. The tie is definitely not over by any stretch of the imagination, but they've dealt with their business at home and won. They just have to go to Naples and not lose that football match, and they're through basically. So AC Milan did the job as well, but definitely they're not in as much of a commanding position as Real Madrid are in. Problem is Chelsea don't score enough goals. Exactly, Tommy. 100% agree with that point right there. They're toothless in front of goal. Well and truly toothless. Between the boxes, I've said before, Chelsea are really good. Like, I see the signs of a football team that plays really well. They've got good midfielders in there. They have good ball possession. They can transition the ball from defence to attack quickly. But the problem is, whenever they get anywhere near the goal, they lack any sign of clinicality whatsoever. And they're not ruthless enough. And it's a bad sign because if a team's not ruthless, they're not going to win football matches. They're not. And they've got a soft side to them. And Chelsea have got a bit of a soft underbelly because they concede weak goals. That second goal, I know you've got 10 men, but how from the corner? It was like a training ground goal for Real Madrid. Modric with the corner to, I think it was, I don't know who it was. Then he passed to Vinicius. Vinicius then passed to Asensio. It's actually training ground, walking stuff, and they pass it into the back of the net. It's way too easy for Real Madrid, man. If you're Chelsea, you can't be conceding soft goals like that, especially down to 10 men. You've got to rely on yourself to keep up with it and at least leave with just 1 goal deficit. That would be enough. But the fact they conceded such a soft goal just speaks volumes about Chelsea, man. In the 2 boxes, they struggle big time and they're getting let down for that because between the boxes, in the middle third of the pitch, they do really well. Just in the final thirds, they struggle a lot. I think Madrid will win at the bridge. The bridge will win at the bridge, to be honest. Yes, I can see that happening as well. Real Madrid got a good record away from home generally. I know last season they won at the bridge 3-1. They've already won at Anfield this season 5-2. Last season, the crazy thing was, Real Madrid won at the bridge 3-1, but Chelsea went to the Bernabeu and were actually 2-0 up, I believe. Like, they had a good chance of going through if it wasn't for Real Madrid scoring some last-minute goals. So it's not over. That's the thing with football, right? A 2-0 deficit is still dangerous. Very dangerous, especially with Stamford Bridge crowd. If Chelsea get 1 goal back, they'll have all the momentum, and then anything can happen. So it's not the end of the world, to be completely honest with you, but you got to put your money on Real Madrid right now because even if Chelsea do find a way back into this football match at Stamford Bridge, I'd still put my faith in Real Madrid having the composure, having the veteran leadership, and having the tactical nous and the experience to get through these tough times. And they really dealt with Chelsea, to be completely honest here. Really dealt with them in an assured, calm manner. They probably just wanted a couple more goals, especially given that Chelsea were that reduced to 10 men for over 30 minutes of the football match. AC Milan not getting another goal, being with a man advantage for the last 20 minutes, may cost them next week, especially if Osimhen is back. Exactly what I was saying. Osimhen is not in that team for Napoli. You're at home in the San Siro. You should have got a couple more goals, really. I think 2-0 would have been a good result for AC Milan. I mean, their first port of call is to win the football match, given at home. If you're home in the Champions League in the first leg, your first port of call is win that match. The second thing you got to look at is, judging on how the game's going, you got to try and get a couple more goals. Especially if the game's in your favour, man. Especially if you've got the extra man, especially if you've got the ascendancy, especially if you've got the momentum, you got to try and get another goal. You never take anything for granted in the Champions League. And I knew that was a day. Ever since Liverpool beat Barcelona 4-0 at Anfield, I realised you should never take games for granted in the Champions League. Because Barcelona in the home leg had Liverpool on ropes. But they were 3-0 up and they were like, you know what, let's just cruise. Let's not concede any goals. Let's cruise to the final whistle. So they won 3-0. A lot of people were thinking perfect result. They go to Anfield and they blow it and they lose 4-0. It's crazy bad. So in the Champions League, because it's only a first leg, you got to keep your foot on the gas. Don't settle at all. The only time you should settle is if you're the away team. Settle and bring it back to your home ground. But if you're the home team, you keep your foot on their neck. You keep your foot on the gas and you try and get another goal. And that's what I think AC Milan should have done. And Real Madrid, although they're 2-0 up, the game isn't quite out of sight because the difference between 2-0 and 3-0 is so big. And Chelsea still got a lifeline here. I don't necessarily believe that Chelsea will get through by any stretch of the imagination, especially with the fact they can't score any goals, let alone getting 2 or 3 goals against Real Madrid next week. But you never know in football, anything can happen. Should Chilwell have let his man go? I mean, it's a brilliant question to be completely honest. For me, I think he thought he would have got a yellow card for it. He was outside the box, so it wasn't going to be a penalty. With 30 minutes left, I think you do let your man go. Genuinely, I think you do. If it's 89th minute, you bring him down and you take the red card. But with 57 minutes gone, 58 minutes gone, I think you let Rodrigo go and bank on Kepa Arrizabalaga to potentially save it. That's when I know Chilwell doesn't have confidence in his goalkeeper. Because I know, for example, the Liverpool players, they let their man go because they've got ultimate faith in Alisson to be able to keep the ball at the back of the net. These Chelsea players don't have any faith in Kepa because you should have let Rodrigo go. It's not an easy chance. He's in the corner of the box. It's not a tight angle. It's not exactly a centre of the goal, one-on-one. It's a tough finish to execute. But Chilwell brought his man down. Not what I believe he should have done, to be completely honest, because I did think on the counter-attack there was some spaces for Chelsea that they could have executed should they have had 11 men. But at 10 men, their problem was really simplified. You got to get out of there with 1 goal deficit. They didn't quite manage to pull it off. But still, Chilwell, I think he let his team down a little bit there. Should have just kept on his feet. Try and challenge the man without fouling and bank on Kepa Arrizabalaga to hopefully keep it out of the back of the net. 3-0 is not safe. Barcelona, remember that at Anfield. Exactly my point. Exactly my point. In the Champions League, if you're at home in the first leg, don't take anything for granted. You got to keep your foot on the gas and try and win that football match by multiple goals. Play until the final whistle. If you're the away team, then you can afford to take some liberties and maybe think, you know what, 1-0 down, taking it back to our home ground isn't the end of the world whatsoever. But if you're the home team, don't rest on 2-0. Don't rest on 1-0. Don't even rest on 3-0. Put that game out of sight. Play that game like it's 0-0 from the get-go. Trust me, that's what you got to do for the home team. Because in another football match in a week's time, everything can change. You never know. Just because you're the better team tonight doesn't mean you're going to be the better team next week. So you've got to put these games to bed. And I think AC Milan might rue that. Because going to Naples, hostile atmosphere, potentially Victor Osimhen back as well. You don't want to face that, man. You don't want to face a Napoli team being only 1-0 up. I think Real Madrid will be fine, given they've got a 2-0 lead and Chelsea don't look like they're ever scoring goals, to be completely honest. But from AC Milan's behalf, I think they would have rued not scoring a couple more goals. Are AC Milan your favourite Italian team? Well, good question given I've got the Italian shirt on. To be fair, I don't support any team in Italy. I just went Milan recently and I wanted to get a Rafael Leao shirt because he's my favourite AC Milan player. That's the only reason. I've got a Bayern shirt as you all saw yesterday, AC Milan shirt as well, PSG Mbappe shirt as well. I don't really have a favourite Italian team. I actually think my favourite Italian team actually is Napoli because I love Kvara and Osimhen, what they've done this season. But yeah, overall I don't support any team in Italy. I just like this shirt. I've got Rafael Leao on the back as my favourite player from AC Milan. That's it. My brother supports Chelsea. He is angry and he wants Luis Enrique next season. I don't blame you, Sajid. I don't blame you one bit, man. Because your brother, he's right to want Luis Enrique. I've made this point as well because Graham Potter at Chelsea and even Frank Lampard to an extent, it doesn't work. They haven't got the resume to deal with this Chelsea side. Chelsea is a massive football team. They're a team that's used to winning European and domestic trophies year on year. They need someone to walk through the door and say, this is my resume. I've got Champions League here, Premier League here. Listen to what not Premier League, La Liga here, Champions League here. Listen to what I'll say and I'll bring this football club a Premier League and Champions League. Graham Potter can't do that. Graham Potter, unfortunately, doesn't have the CV to do that. He can't tell the boys, okay, Chelsea, I want you to train like this. Mason Mount do this. Kai Havertz do this. That's how we're going to win the Premier League. Why are you going to listen to him? Donny's never done it before. His biggest achievement is taking Brighton to the top half of the table. Like, if I'm being really honest about it, that's his biggest achievement. If you get a big boy manager in the door like Luis Enrique, it's super easy, man. He's got the expertise, he's got the experience, the players will listen to him. It's a bit of an ego, and he's got that respect around him. That's who Chelsea need to employ, in my opinion. If the Milan derby happens, is it crazy it's played in one stadium? I mean, crazier things have happened, but that's the San Siro, man. That's how they do it in Italy. It'd be absolutely brilliant, though. I'd love to see an Inter Milan, AC Milan Champions League semi-final. That'd be absolutely ridiculous. So good, man. Two powerhouses of Europe, man. Unbelievable. Both those teams, brilliant. They've struggled a lot recently in Europe, to be fair. AC Milan have 7 Champions Leagues. They're the second highest behind Real Madrid, who of course are the Champions League kings. It'd be absolutely brilliant. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see AC Milan versus Inter Milan in the Champions League semi-final. Chelsea have only scored as many as 3 goals 3 times the whole season, and only once in 2023. What an alarming stat. What an alarming stat for Chelsea fans, man. They're failing to score goals, and it's happening more and more. And the problem is, it's a bit like the chicken and the egg. As in the fact that low confidence leads to less scoring, and less scoring leads to low confidence. So it's a vicious cycle for Chelsea. They're not scoring goals, and because of their lack of confidence, they're struggling to score even more, and not scoring is leading to a lack of confidence. Their strikers just don't look at it. Every time Chelsea get a chance around the box, I don't feel like they're going to score, and that's a really bad sign. That's a really bad sign. If you don't really look like you're going to score goals, teams can capitalize on that, and they're not as nervous, and they're able to throw more bodies forward and take advantage for that. Chelsea need to find goals from somewhere, because it's not entertaining their football. Between the boxes, it's fine, but when you get to the final third, that's where your money's made. The only thing that matters in football is the score in the top left. It doesn't matter how much possession you have. It doesn't matter how many passes you complete. It doesn't even matter how many shots you have on target. The only thing that matters is that score in the top left. Goals you score and goals you concede. And Chelsea are not scoring goals, and they're conceding goals far too easily. Far too easily for their liking. So they're going to need to change it around. The thing is, though, football can change very quickly, and confidence and mentality can change very quickly. After Chelsea beat Leicester 3-1 in the Premier League, I thought they turned the corner. I genuinely thought, you know what? Chelsea here, they're beating them 3-1, a convincing performance. Obviously, Leicester are not the best. We've seen that recently. I thought they turned the corner, but clearly didn't look that way. Chelsea need to get a big result against a big team. That's what happens. Arsenal were struggling a couple seasons back, doing really bad under Arteta, and then out of nowhere, we beat Chelsea 3-1. Out of completely nowhere. We were failing to score goals, and then we beat Chelsea 3-1, and then since then, we went on the run, and were scoring goals for fun. It was like a completely different team. That's what Chelsea need to do. They need to just face a big team and win that game and score a few goals, and the confidence will be back. Because those are not bad footballers. Make no mistake about it. I know they haven't got a recognised striker for my liking, but that's not a bad football team, Chelsea. Raheem Sterling's a proper good footballer. Kai Havertz has been balling recently. João Felix is a good footballer. Make no mistake about it. If the mojo and confidence is back with Chelsea, that is still a good football team. And they've got enough quality at Stamford Bridge to get through to the semi-final. Have they given themselves too much of a grave and they dug too much of a hole to get out of this one? I'm not too sure, most probably, but anything can happen in football. Trust me, guys, anything can happen. If they score 1 goal at Stamford Bridge and the confidence is with them and the momentum's with them, anything can happen. I can't wait for that game next week. It's cool to collect shirts. I have an Ajax one. It is, yeah, and I just like collecting shirts of players I'm a fan of. So Rafael Leao, I've got Mbappe, I've got Alphonso Davies that I was wearing yesterday for Bayern. It's nice to hear you've got an Ajax one. I'd love to have an Ajax one as well. If I ever go to Netherlands, I'd definitely get one from Ajax. I'm not sure which player I'd get though, to be completely honest. Would you rather win the Premier League or Champions League? Great question. As an Arsenal fan, Champions League, just because we've never won it before, and just because it's a pinnacle of Europe. But I'd understand if other people say Premier League. But for me, Champions League, just mainly because I'm an Arsenal fan and our club's never won it. But also I just think the Champions League is a pinnacle of Europe. A tougher question that is, what is harder to win? The Premier League or Champions League? Because genuinely, I think the Premier League's harder to win than the Champions League, unless you're Man City, for example. Because the Champions League, your run can help you. And it's not necessarily one-off games because there's legs either side, but you can have momentum in Champions League. Like, things can swing your way just like that, like a pendulum, and you can get really lucky. I mean, I've seen teams like Tottenham reach a Champions League final in 2019. Tottenham are not the second best team in the Champions League that season, but things just went their way, and that can happen in the Champions League. So honestly, that could be your benefit and that could be your downfall. Man City arguably have had the best squad to win the Champions League over the past 5 seasons. They've failed to do so. Who knows if they're going to win it this season? I think Pep Guardiola, despite the fact he's down playing the Champions League, is really wanting to win that Champions League this season. I'll be completely honest with it. This brother wants to win the Champions League this season with Man City. No matter how much he talks about, oh, it's not that important, the Premier League's more important, etc. He wants to win it. Let's see if they do. For me, I prefer win the Champions League, but the Premier League, I think it technically could be tougher to win, and it's just as good a trophy, to be completely honest. Sorry I'm late. I was doing something, saw that Real Madrid won 2-0. No worries, Luke. I appreciate you tuning into the stream. Hope you're doing well, my friends. Yes, Real Madrid won 2-0. It was a comfortable victory in the end. I think, to be fair, that in the first 5 minutes, Chelsea had a break with João Felix, and I thought, hold on a minute here. They've got a chance here, Chelsea. Because after about 6 minutes, they played a nice passing move. Kante was really pivotal in that through to João Felix. And I thought, this is Chelsea's get-out clause. If they can break on the counter-attack, good things can happen. But as we've grown to be accustomed with Chelsea, toothless up front, João Felix never looked like scoring. He was running completely through 7 minutes, and yet he still managed to have the defender catch up to him, and a tame finish in the end to go past the goalkeeper. So yeah, to be completely honest, Real Madrid steamrolled Chelsea here. Comfortable victory. They probably could have got more goals and probably should have got more goals, especially given that Chelsea were reduced to 10 men by Chilwell getting sent off around the 58th, 59th minute. But overall, I think it's still a comfortable victory for Real Madrid fans, and they won't be losing sleep over the fact they didn't score more goals. Interesting that 4 quarterfinal matches so far, both teams haven't scored. That's very interesting, actually, and you're right. Every single quarterfinal game has ended with with one team not scoring any goals. It's been either 2-0, 3-0, 1-0. That's really interesting, to be completely honest. And I think it's less tight than I expected it to be. Once you get to the quarterfinals of Champions League, I expect every team there to be decent. Like, I thought every game would be really tough and really cagey, but it's not looking that way whatsoever. I'm seeing teams comfortably beat other teams, and it's not what I want to see as a neutral fan. I don't support any of these teams in the Champions League. I want to see tight football matches, but yesterday with Man City, the game was over by the 75th minute. Today as well, the game was over by the time Real Madrid scored a second goal. That's not really what I want to see, but look, you can't really blame Real Madrid and Man City for that. They're putting teams to the sword. We just have to see the second leg if it can throw up any type of surprises, especially because some of these teams are going back home. Real Madrid are going to Stamford Bridge. Bayern Munich are going, of course. Bayern Munich are playing at home. City are going to Munich to play. We're seeing, of course, the fact that AC Milan are going to Naples. Anything can happen in the second leg of Champions League. I think we've grown accustomed to the fact that Champions League is crazy, especially in those second legs. But the way it's going right now, it seemed pretty comfortable and convincing for the teams that are taking the lead. The draw plays a part in cup football. Great point. Premier League, tougher. Yes, I think that you're right. The draw does play a big part in Champions League football. I mean, we saw Liverpool last season, right? And I don't begrudge Liverpool one bit. They made a Champions League final based off merit, 100%. But in that draw, in that run into Champions League final, they're playing teams like Benfica and Villarreal. No disrespect to both those sides, but Benfica and Villarreal on your way to a Champions League final is extremely lucky. Extremely fortunate. I want to say they played Inter Milan in the last 16 as well. That's a really friendly run-in to the Champions League final, especially considering how tough that competition is. On the flip side, you had Real Madrid, who were playing Chelsea, who were playing Man City. Tough games, man. So you're right, the draw does play a part in it. So you could say that definitely Champions League probably is easier for that reason. And the Premier League, of course, you've got a case of anything can happen, right? You're playing 38 games. I think the toughest thing in a Premier League season is the consistency. To play week in, week out for 38 games and be near flawless is really good, because the Premier League isn't like the Premier League in recent seasons. Manchester United used to win the Premier League with 80 points, and they'd win it by a mile with 80 points. Now you need 90, 95 points to even be talked about as potential champions. 80 points is a Champions League place. If you want to be a champion, you have to consider picking up 90 plus points, and a lot of teams are not doing that. And the fact you're able to pull off that, and even like Liverpool not win the Premier League, is a massive sign to the fact that the Premier League is such a tough league. If you're in 8th place, you get the Europa League, right? I don't believe so. I think it's 1st to 4th gets the Champions League, 5th and 6th gets Europa League, and 7th gets Europa Conference League. And anything below 7th just doesn't get any European football. That's how I believe it is. Feel free, if anyone to correct that in the live chat, feel free to, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. 1 to 4 gets Champions League, 5 to 6 gets Europa League, and 7th gets Europa Conference League. 8th place in the Premier League. What score was AC Milan versus Napoli? 1-0 AC Milan. What do you think of the old Champions League format when there were 2 group stages? I know you may not remember, but the second group stage was full of decent teams. First group stage is meh for me. I don't remember that. Genuinely, I don't. From when I started watching Champions League, I don't remember that whatsoever. Would that be? No, for me, I can't lie. I preferred when my dad used to talk about how it used to be knockout football from day one, and I used to love that. Knockout football from minute one, and no types of seeding, just knockout football from the get-go. And my dad used to love that. And I could see that being a potential opportunity. I don't mind the group stages, to be completely honest, in Champions League. I don't hate the format whatsoever with it. I think it's completely fine, to be honest. And I love how they changed the Europa League format as well, with the fact that if you finish top of their group, you get a bye into the round of 16. Things that people say, though, and I do actually agree with this as well. I don't like how if you get knocked out of the Champions League, you have a chance to go into the Europa League, because then the Europa League is just full of Champions League rejects. I don't think that's necessarily fair, and then obviously same for Europa Conference League. I think if you get knocked out of the Champions League, you get knocked out of the Champions League. That is it. There shouldn't be this type of, you get knocked out of Champions League, you get another lifeline in the Europa League, because I don't think that's fair. I think the Europa League should be for teams that qualified for the Europa League. That's just my opinion on it, but feel free to disagree. 1-0 to Milan, yep, exactly, Luke. Heard Thierry Henry talking about Felix. They need to move left to block the defender, force the defender to go through his back. By going a bit right to get a favoured leg, he opened the path. Very good point. And look, if Thierry Henry is giving striking advice, I'm not going to discredit that one bit. As a striker, right, and what I've learned, I'm not necessarily a striker, but I've been football training, I've watched a lot of football, I've heard a lot of pundits, spoken to a lot of people in the game. When you're a striker, you got to put your body between the ball. That's one of the biggest things you got to do. If the ball's on your right-hand side, you move your body across the ball. Because, as you said here, Jeff, it forces the defender to make a decision. The only way they can challenge you is going through the back of you. And if they go through the back of you as a last man, it's a red card. So that's what you got to do. Don't dribble the ball away from you. I think João Felix did that a little bit. He gave the defender too much opportunity to take the ball off him. He should have put his body across the ball and then he can slow down. And another thing strikers do recently a lot is they slow down and force defenders to go into the back of them and win a penalty like that. It's cheeky, but it works. We saw, for example, on the weekend, Jota do that. Rob Holding was ready to challenge for the ball and Jota just kind of broke his step last second and Rob Holding went into the back of him and the penalty was given. And it was a penalty because it's smart play. João Felix should have done that as well. Use your body wisely as a striker. It's your biggest asset. Footballers that know how to use their body, Sadio Mane is one of the biggest ones. He's not a tall striker, Sadio Mane. He's 5'7" winger, but the brother knows how to use his body. It's one of your biggest assets, and not enough strikers do that, and not enough forwards in general. And I think João Felix is not using his body enough. So Thierry Henry makes a brilliant point. You got to block the defender with your body and force him to make a challenge. He either steps off you or he goes for the back of you, and you win a free kick / penalty, and the player gets sent off for an early shower. It's so weird. I'm not even mad anymore. I genuinely think this team is 3 to 4 years at least from a title challenge. Okay, Chelsea are really bad right now, C1. I 100% agree with you in that respect. But you're never as far as you think. Trust me that, guys. You're never as bad as you think in football. You're never a million miles away. Chelsea, they've got the financial means to get back to the top. I don't think you're 3-4 years away. Genuinely, Chelsea could challenge next year if you have a top manager in the door. If Luis Enrique comes in the summer, you could challenge next year. Look at that team. Kante is a world-class player. I know he isn't as good as he used to be in his Leicester days and even the years that he won the Premier League with Chelsea. But he's still a top-class player. Enzo Fernandez, young player of the World Cup. He's a top player, man. You've got decent players around there. In the summer, sign a top striker, Victor Osimhen, Harry Kane, one of those two, and you're back. Trust me, CU1, you're back. Chelsea are a good football team. They're just lacking confidence and they haven't got a manager in the door. Get rid of some deadwood, bring in a top striker, get in a top manager, and you're there. Trust me. Look at Arsenal last season. And you're lying if anyone says that they thought Arsenal were going to challenge for the Premier League this season. Absolutely lying. They finished 5th in the Premier League, bottling it to Tottenham, a million miles off Man City and Liverpool. It was something like 30 points they finished behind them. This season, it's a complete U-turn. They're now 30 points ahead of Liverpool. It's absolutely crazy. Anything can happen in football. Trust me, guys. You're not as far away as you think. A couple positions need to be addressed. For Chelsea, it's a striker, a manager, and they're there. Trust me, they're there. It's crazy to think that us, Palace, we'd win 2 more of our matches in the Premier League and Chelsea lose 2 in a row and we'd be tied for 11th place. And it could happen because Palace under Roy Hodgson looked good. Really good. I mean, under Patrick Vieira, your problem, just like Chelsea, was you weren't scoring enough goals. You weren't creating enough chances. I think it got to a point where you hadn't had the shot in target in 3 consecutive matches under Patrick Vieira, which was a crazy, crazy stat. But the thing is, though, with Roy Hodgson, you got your attacking mojo back and your attacking flair. And sometimes you need that. And it just goes to show, Crystal Palace's players aren't as good as Chelsea's. They were struggling to get any sort of attacking options. Then they've gone and scored 5 goals against Leeds on the weekend away from home after being 1-0 down. Chelsea, they get a right manager in the door, the attacking players start to flourish and they start to bang in the goals and it really starts to go well for them again. Trust me. So yeah, Palace, if they've proven it, Chelsea can prove it as well. But this season for Chelsea, it's been a car crash. Absolutely terrible. I agree. I've never liked 3rd place going into Europa. Oh, wait, sorry, I missed a comment. Yeah, I agree with you, Tommy, right there. 3rd place into Europa, I don't like it whatsoever. You're getting rewarded for failing. Oh, and I saw Todd Bowley say, we are winning 3-0 today. I saw that as well on Instagram. Well, that aged well. Carlo Ancelotti said, hold my cigarette. Todd Bowley, big up to him. He's a very confident man, but I think he needs to assess where his team's at, to be completely honest. I think even losing 1-0 would have been a good result for Chelsea in this game. Now they were down to 10 men. 2-0 probably is a decent result as well, given it could have been a lot more worse for them. But Todd Bowley, he says it's a long-term project at the club. That's what he said in that same clip. This brother's got to start thinking, oh my God, what is going horribly wrong for him? Surely he must be thinking, I spend 600 million, 300 million. It can't go this bad. But it just has. It's absolutely crazy how it's gone this bad as well. I agree. I've never liked third place. I went through that comment. Agree. The problem I have with the group stages is that they are mainly a foregone conclusion. I agree. I agree to an extent. I feel like the teams in the Champions League group stages, you kind of know who's going through. Maybe you might get a surprise, but generally you know who's going through in the Champions League group stages. One thing that could be an opportunity, and they could do, right, is they could do first place goes through and second and third plays a playoff game maybe. Because one thing that I do think is a bit unfair that happens in Champions League group stages is by the time you get to the six match week, right, a team's progress, they probably rest their players, which means that the team facing them, they get kind of lucky. Now, I know the changes have made it head-to-head rather than goal difference, which has an impact, but points is still the biggest metric. So maybe a playoff in second and third could be a potential option. I'm not too sure about that. Who knows? But I think the group stages are here to stay. I'm not a massive... I mean, I'm a fan of it. I don't massively hate it whatsoever. So yeah, I don't have a real problem with that whatsoever, to be honest. Leslie joining in. Modric is a legend. He absolutely is, man. What a footballer Modric is. Coolness personified. This player has aged like fine wine, Luka Modric. He's so good, man. The way he takes possession, the way he shifts the ball from left to right so easily, the way he's able to just split open the defense. It's so good, man. It's so good. Like, him and Toni Kroos really have established a good partnership in there. And Real Madrid got their money's worth. When they signed those two players, I'm sure they would not have expected, even their wildest dreams, to get this much longevity out of them. They've been so good for so many years. Modric again today just dictates the play. Such a good footballer. He's someone that you can rely on in tight areas. And even his like skill, the Trivela passes it outside the foot. It's just liquid. It's a joy to watch him play football, to be completely honest. Teams like Victoria Pleasant have no chance. I agree. And that's why I made a point yesterday saying that I believe the Premier League should have more Champions League spots. I think top 5 in the Premier League should make the Champions League. And even that's been a bit generous, to be fair, in the fact that, honestly, 7th, 8th place in the Premier League is better than second place in a lot of other leagues. Let's be completely honest about it. Brighton and Brentford could compete in the Champions League if you play them against teams like Victoria Pleasant, for example, or Ludogorets, or teams like that. So I feel like certain countries, like the Hungaries, like the Bulgarias, they get a Champions League spot, but is that top team really deserved of it? Who knows, man? I'm not too sure if I agree with that, to be completely honest. I can't remember the last time an Eastern European team reaches UEFA Champions League knockouts. And they won't for a while. They won't. But that's just the way it is. It's European Champions League, so they've got to allow opportunity for all those nations. For me, I think that the low-seeded nations, and they do this anyway, there's Champions League playoffs, right? And I think that maybe they should have more of those teams in the playoff and less of those teams automatically promoting, or at least give more English teams an opportunity in the Champions League playoffs. So if you finish 5th or 6th in the Champions League, you at least go into the Champions League playoffs to play against those teams to see if you deserve a spot in the Champions League group stage. Because before, it used to be 4th place plays the Champions League playoff. I remember that as an Arsenal fan. Arsenal used to play like Fenerbahce, for example, in the Champions League playoff to even get into the group stage. It'll be interesting to see if they allow more Premier League teams and then start doing that as well. Chelsea need a new keeper. I agree. And I think, Leslie, I agree with you 100% in that. Because even the fact that Chilwell brought down Rodrigo there, I think he brought down Rodrigo because he didn't have a lot of faith in Kepa Arrizabalaga keeping out that shot. I think that says a lot because, trust me, if that's Virgil van Dijk, if that's Trent Alexander-Arnold, if that's Andrew Robertson, Konate, they're not bringing down Rodrigo because they have faith in Alisson being able to save that shot. These Chelsea players don't have any faith in their goalkeeper. And even that second goal, it was really tame shot from Asensio. Kepa Arrizabalaga should be doing better there. Wasn't good enough whatsoever. Even the first goal to an extent, push it away from danger. Literally pushed it straight into the path of Karim Benzema. And whether it was Karim Benzema, whether it was me, or if it was anyone else on planet Earth, they would have gobbled up that opportunity. It was on a plate for him. Perhaps Shakhtar. Yeah, Shakhtar, they have, to be fair. And they're a decent side, to be completely honest, Ukrainian team. But it's one of few, let's be completely honest. I think that a lot of players are going. I don't think it's that easy to go from 11th to 1st or so. They'll probably get top 4 next season, but I still think a title challenge is too soon. Yeah, I see what I said. I think a lot of players do need to go to Chelsea. I think there will be a mass clear out in the summer. But I do think you can jump a lot in this Premier League. It just goes to show, just because you're at the top of the league now doesn't mean you'll be the top of the league next season. Just because you're not fighting for the Champions League now doesn't mean you're not fighting next season. Chelsea are 11th, right? But they're not an 11th place team. I know the table doesn't lie, but let's be completely honest about it. Chelsea are better than 11th. Chelsea, based on their team right now, should be around 6th, I'd say. 6th or 5th, if I'm being nice, to be completely honest. They shouldn't be 11th. They're 11th because they've lost all confidence and they're not really taking the league seriously anymore. That's what I'm seeing from Chelsea. So I think the jump is possible. Do I think Chelsea will win the league next season? No, I don't believe so. But I would not be surprised one bit if Chelsea do challenge for the Premier League next season. It's the way it goes in football. Anything can happen and they can make that jump. Trust me, guys. And yes, I know this club did that in 2016, but still, yes, under Conte, they finished 10th, then they went to win the league next season. It could happen, C1, trust me. And if any club can do it, it's Chelsea, given the affluence that owner has and given the amount of resources they have available. Chelsea have a crazy huge squad. Some signed to 7-8 year contracts, exactly player amortization. They can add a striker, etc. in the summer, but they need to get rid of a lot of the roster. Agree, Jeff, agree 100%, but a striker needs to be signed. How you spend 300 to 600 million over the past 2 windows, yet fail to address the striking position is beyond me. It's honestly beyond me. That is one of the most important positions. You splash the cash on a striker. The one striker they did buy was João Felix. And they haven't even signed him. They're going to need to buy him permanently in the summer. And arguably he's been their best signing. So it's crazy to say that. Chelsea's got even more money to spend. Chelsea, if they've got the money available, they can sign a top striker. And while, obviously they're not in Europe, but while they've still got the name and while they've still got Chelsea, who are a massive European club, they can attract some top talents. Victor Osimhen, Harry Kane, these type of strikers Chelsea need to go for. And you're right, they need to ship out some of the deadwoods. Pulisic needs to move on. Sterling needs to move on from. I know they just signed him, but he's not getting any game time, rarely. I know he played today, Sterling, but he's not been in that side continuously. Kai Havertz needs to move on. I've been saying it for time. I don't rate Kai Havertz one bit. Mason Mount potentially might move on. He's not getting much game time. That midfield is aging. Kovacic needs to move on. A lot of change needs to happen at Chelsea, but it is a very exciting project in my opinion. Chelsea is very exciting because of the money available, because of how massive that club is, because of the manager they could potentially bring in the door. Honestly, if I was a manager, I wouldn't mind going Chelsea. You know you're going to have a checkbook available. You know you're going to have a lot of top quality players to manage. You know you've got a team that's ready to fight for the big competitions. You just need to sort out the egos. And it's a big potential opportunity for any manager that wants to take that on. Someone like Luis Enrique, for example. This morning I woke up and saw this. Arsenal set to launch shock Wilfried Zaha transfer bid for face competition from Monaco of all teams with star available for free. Opinion. Well, Zaha's been talking about running down his contract for the past 6 seasons, I feel like. And I feel like he might. For me, I think Zaha to Arsenal, that ship has sailed. The big opportunity was when we signed Pepe instead, and potentially the season after again. But I think his ship has sailed now. I feel for Zaha a little bit because obviously he went to Manchester United, never seemed to materialise, and he's now gone back to Palace. And I think he always wanted to take that next step in his career. It's never quite happened. For him, I think he needs to just do what he can at Crystal Palace, to be completely honest. It reminds me a bit of Kasper Schmeichel. Kasper Schmeichel at Leicester City was always looking for that next step up. It never ended up happening. He ended up taking like a sideways move to Nice, and he's just been there since. I think Zaha is not going to get a move up to a top team now. I think he could. Like Tottenham might circle around for him, who knows? But I genuinely think Crystal Palace, he's a Premier League team, a well-established Premier League team as well. I think Zaha should just stay there for his career, to be completely honest now. I think he's got to that stage for him. I've never watched Europa Conference League match. I can't lie, I've only watched one in my life, and that was the Tottenham game at their stadium. I went to watch Tottenham play against some Portuguese team, Ferran Varicos or something like that, in the Europa Conference League last season. I went to Tottenham's ground to watch it. I know I went as an Arsenal fan. Don't get me wrong, I went into enemy territory, and it's a very nice stadium. But yeah, Leighton Cook, welcome into chat saying I haven't watched one. I don't blame you, I've only ever watched one. Tommy Tornado, yeah, no one's watched Europa Conference League. Why does the competition exist? No one watches it unless they're a West Ham fan, it seems. Chelsea can sell Loftus-Cheek, Hudson-Odoi, Chalobah, Mount, all academy for profit to balance FFP. Good point. And the one thing about Chelsea is under Abramovich, they were a well-run football club. In terms of they spent a lot of money, but they also sold well. They were able to get a lot of money. You got players like Fikayo Tomori, right? Tomori, I think, probably should have stayed at Chelsea, given that I think he's one of the best centre-backs at the football club. But when they sold him, they still sold him for money. Like, they got a good amount for him. When Chelsea sell players, they sell players for a good amount. Lukaku, let's see if he goes at the end of summer, because he's a striker that could come back to Chelsea. Who knows? Someone might walk in the door and go, I like the look of Lukaku. Whether Lukaku wants to play at Chelsea, whether he's there mentally to come back and play at Chelsea, that's a whole nother story. But Lukaku is a player that's still under contract at Chelsea. He could fix their striking problems. Me, personally, I think they can go for a better striker than Lukaku. I know they spent a lot of money on him, but me personally, I think there's a lot of better players than Lukaku out there. Lukaku isn't an outright finisher. I know people will talk about, oh, Lukaku will score you goals. I don't believe so. I genuinely don't believe so. Like, I saw him for Belgium in the World Cup. He struggled, man. I think you can get better goal scorers than Lukaku. And I think if you got the money available that Chelsea do have, sign Victor Osimhen. At least inquire about him. Try and get a striker like that through the door. That's what I would do if I was Chelsea. I have Tommy, but I'll watch anything. I like that, Jeff. I like the fact that you'll watch any football match. Big up you for that. What's it like, Tommy says? If Palace get into Europa Conference League, I don't think that'll happen, but yeah, let's see. Then I'll watch Palace only. Otherwise, I'm not into it. I just think it's not as exciting in Champions League and Europa League. Exactly. And I mean, when they introduced the competition, I was like, what's the point of this really, man? Like, it seemed like an extra revenue opportunity. And look, I feel like for certain teams that are not going to win the Europa League or Champions League, it gives them another European opportunity, which I think is nice. But yeah, I think only diehard football fans are really watching Europa Conference League. I'm a diehard football fan, and I'm not watching that. I'm watching Europa League, and 100% I'm watching the Champions League. It's like a bad league match. Exactly. Hey, how are you? Okay, I'm live. You 32 people. Hi, Luca. I appreciate you tuning in, my friend. They should have a European club competition just for minnows like San Marino, Andorra, etc. That's a good point, Tommy. Like having like a. You know how like they have the in England they have the Carling Cup, then they have like the Papa John's Trophy for like the teams that aren't in the Premier League and Championship. They should do that. They should have like a European Cup for like countries that don't qualify into the Champions League, but it's just closed off to them. That's actually a good idea. They should have that. And maybe the winner of that gets to qualify for like the Europa League or something. I actually like that idea. That's really good. I agree, Luke says. I can't believe Chelsea spent that much money and are still mid-table. Crazy to say, but that's just how competitive the Premier League is. I mean, we're looking at Leicester City, who are bottom of the league. It's crazy to say, but that's just how it is, man. It's it's so competitive, and anything can happen. Chelsea are mid-table right now, but they're not a mid-table team. They've got negative goal difference, which is ludicrous as well to even comprehend, given how much money they've spent. But they can turn it around 100%, trust me that. New manager, same Chelsea. It's like they're going backwards at this point. Yes, but is Frank Lampard really a new manager though? Like he's come as an interim manager. He's been there before very recently as well. Chelsea need to bring in a new top manager. If they get a new manager to walk through the door and that brings shivers down the spine, that's when they can really start to compete again. I want to see Luis Enrique walk through that door, man. If I'm Chelsea, I'm calling up Luis Enrique. I understand he already went to London recently and ironed out some potential terms for a deal, but is he coming in the summer? That could be an option. I know Julian Nagelsmann's another potential option. Maurizio Pochettino as well. If I'm Chelsea, I'm knocking down Luis Enrique's door. You want a manager that's won things. And Luis Enrique, boy, has he won things. Yes, Luke, if your team's Europa Conference League, you'd watch it and want to win for sure. West Ham would love to win it. West Ham would 100% would love to win it, especially with how they are struggling with the Premier League, sorry. They'd love to win the Europa Conference League, man. It'd be brilliant for them. How are you live with 35? That's a bit rude, Luca. How am I live with 35 people, man? That's a bit rude. People are here because they love to talk about football. But yeah, appreciate you tuning in regardless. Once you reduce the size of Chelsea's squad down to 25 players from 40, it'll be easier for the new manager to cope. I agree with that 100%, Leslie. And I made this point the other day, actually, about Chelsea Football Club. And I'm going to summarise it because I understand a lot of people weren't in my stream a few days ago. What they've done, bringing in that much money, is crazy. It's like me giving the job as manager of Tesco, right? And HR coming to me and, oh, you've just walked in the door, you're manager, here's $1 million, what do you want to buy? I just walked through the door. I don't know what I want to get. I just walked through the door. That's what it's a bit like for Graham Potter. I feel for him a bit because as soon as he walked through the door, he had a transfer window straight away and Todd Bailey was like, okay, Potter, who do you need? He should have told him. He should have told the owner. I don't know whether he's like, I don't think if Graham Potter's headstrong enough for this, and that's probably why they need an experienced manager. He just said, look, Todd, Mr. Bowley, I appreciate you willing to spend this much money, and I'm really appreciate that as well, given that I've come from Brighton, who have really had me with down tools, haven't been able to spend a lot of money. But can you give me this rest of the season to manage the current squad? I want to see where the current players are and give them an opportunity before I spend a lot of money. I think it's only right I give the current crop of players their chance, and then in the summer, I'll see who's good enough and who isn't good enough, and then from there, we'll seem to sign on top players. But no, he got a little bit gassed. He saw all the numbers in the bank account. He saw the checkbook available to him and he thought, all right, I've got the money available. Let's get Mudryk. Let's get Enzo Fernandez. Let's get this, that, Fofana, etc. That's what Chelsea's mentality was. And I don't think that's the right call whatsoever. I think you're right. Having less players actually is a blessing. Having too many options can actually be a curse. And look at Frank Lampard. He achieved Champions League third place for Chelsea when he had a transfer ban because he didn't have the money to spend. He couldn't spend money and it made your task simpler. Honestly, I think that's the case. So I 100% agree with you here, Leslie. With less players, with a thinner squad, it actually could be easier for Chelsea. It was Mura, right? Mura versus Tottenham. Something like that. It was honestly, Tottenham whitewashed them. It was one of the easiest games. It was October around last year, September, October last year. Very easy game for Tottenham. I can't lie, it was a group stage game. Zaha to Newcastle, maybe on a free. Good potential opportunity for Newcastle as well to get Zaha. Maybe for a couple of seasons as well, especially with the fact they're going to be in Champions League, they're going to need a lot of players to rotate in. I like that idea, Leslie. I like that idea a lot. I watched West Ham last time out. I might go to their next Conference League game. Yeah, you could do. I mean, I'm in London, so I could go to any team's game, to be completely honest. And it'll be cheap tickets as well, but I don't really want to sit through a Conference League game, especially on a Thursday when I'd rather watch Manchester United versus Sevilla or any other Europa League match. Unbelievable that Tottenham couldn't win the Conference League, though. Yeah, that was crazy. To be fair, I felt for them because they got knocked out because of, like they had to forfeit a game because of COVID and they just lost that game 3-0. I think it was to like Rennes or something. So it's a bit unfortunate, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. I don't think they're losing that much sleep over it. Chelsea made a loss of 1.6 billion on players over 19 years and under Abramovich. You're right. They spent a lot of money. They sold well as well, but they did spend an awful lot of money. I'd like to see the Hammers win it. I would as well. I'd like to see an English team win it, especially because I'm not that. What's it called? I'm not that. Like, I haven't got the hatred towards West Ham that I have towards other Premier League teams. Like, I don't want to see Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, Manchester United, any team like that win any sort of European cup whatsoever. But West Ham, I don't feel that same hatred towards. Like, even last year in the Europa League, I wanted West Ham to win the Europa League. Because why not, man? It's West Ham. It'd be nice to see for their fans as well. Tony Arios, welcome to the chat. Tony Arios, sorry. We defend a lot and forget to score. Yeah, that sums up Chelsea, to be completely honest. They don't even defend well, to be completely honest. They defend generally okay, but for a team that doesn't score goals, you expect them to be more resolute defensively. A lot of football teams, they kind of sacrifice not being as good going forward to defend resolutely and defend compactly and defend well. Chelsea defend like in that manner, but they still leak goals. It's criminal that they're not able to score, yet they leak the goals they leak. Like, the goals they conceded today were both very avoidable. The first goal, one through ball over the top. Vinicius gets a strike on it. Kepa spills it. Karim Benzema scores. Schoolboy defending. The second goal is from a corner, man. I know you've got 10 men, but you've got to defend properly than that. It's a training ground goal. One touch pass, one touch pass, one touch pass. Asensio left-footed shot on the edge of the box. Unmarked. Kepa should do better. It's in the back of the net. Way too easy, man. AC Milan versus Napoli was good, Lucas said. Was it? I mean, I was watching the Real Madrid Chelsea game. I know it finished 1-0 AC Milan. And someone in the chat said Napoli were reduced to 10 men. So AC Milan probably could have got more goals. Really interesting to know. I'm a bit annoyed that despite the fact that we're in the quarterfinals now, you still can't watch both matches unless you watch them at the same time. Why didn't they put one match at 5:45 and one match at 8 p.m? Why are they still putting both matches on at 8 p.m? I think that's really unfair, really. I would love to watch both matches of football if I could, if I had the opportunity to, but it is what it is, man. I would have loved to watch both those matches, AC Milan, Napoli, and the game today. It's where the cookie crumbles, I guess. I didn't watch Mura versus Tottenham, but I remember watching the highlights on YouTube because I heard Mura won. Oh, no, this game Tottenham definitely won. And it was at Tottenham's ground as well. They whitewashed that team. I think it was like Ferencváros or something like that. It was a Portuguese team, I think. What shirt are you wearing? I'm wearing an AC Milan shirt. Rafael Leao on the back. I got it from when I went to Milan about 2 weeks ago. It's AC Milan. Yep, Tommy, exactly. Wearing AC Milan. Yep, thank you. I will say for the European Conference League, if you're a fan of a team from, I don't know, Hungary, Romania or Greece, you're likely to see your team go in for the Europa/Champions League. That's a good point, and that's the point I was making, right? And that's why you were saying they should have like their own league for those type of nations. I agree with you, because teams like Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, the Europa Conference League is wasted on them because they want to win the Champions League. Like, even the Europa League, to an extent, sometimes you feel wasted being in that competition. But for teams like Brentford, for teams like Brighton, for teams like West Ham, for teams like from those countries, the Europa Conference League is their Champions League because they're not going to make the Champions League. And they feel at least they have an opportunity with some equal playing teams in the Europa Conference League. So I understand why they brought it in. I just think personally that they should maybe be like lower place. I think in England, the 10th place team should get in the Europa Conference League, not the 7th place team, for example. Cheers, Leslie says, yeah. In that situation, Europa Conference League would be good for you. Agree, C1, 100%. Bowley was signing players like he was playing FIFA. Yeah, exactly. Football Manager, FIFA settings for Todd Bowley. Scouting market, see who was good. He was just following other scouting academies. Generally, that's what he was doing. Ooh, Arsenal top of the league right now. They don't sign a lot of players. Arsenal in for Mykhailo Mudryk. Oh my God, Arsenal bid 80 million for Mudryk. He must be good if Arsenal want him. Let's go sign Mudryk, boys. That's literally their game plan. Oh, who's Enzo Fernandez? Never heard of him. Oh, who just won World Cup young player? Oh, was it Enzo Fernandez? Let's sign him as well. I knew it was crazy. When Enzo Fernandez won Young Player of the World Cup, right? Every single team in world football must have been looking at him. He's won the World Cup for Argentina. He's been pivotal. He plays box to box, one of the most young, exciting players in world football. The Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Bayern Munichs, the Man Cities, the PSGs must have all been sniffing around Enzo Fernandez. And then they must have heard Benfica go, look, his release cost 120 million. If you want him, you spend 120 million. As soon as they heard that, they didn't even bother pursuing it any further. Only Chelsea were mad enough to pursue Enzo Fernandez. You knew it was a bad deal when they were the only team pursuing a player that's one of the most hottest prospects in world football and just one young player of the World Cup. When they are the only team pursuing him, that's when you know he's well overpriced. But Chelsea are mad enough to spend that money, I guess. Apparently, the new UEFA Champions League format will apply to European Conference League. Way too many matches. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I agree with you. Too many matches. Isn't it like a massive league system or something like that? And yeah, I think it is too many matches. There's already too many matches as it is. So yeah, I'd be interested to see how they implement it. To be completely honest, with the massive league, I believe you play like 10 group stage matches or something like that, which I think is crazy. Like it's that many, but I'd be interested to see how it works. I'm an optimist. I'm not gonna talk bad about it before it necessarily happens. I'm not a massive fan from now, but I've got an open mind. Let's see how it is. I'd love to see how it works out. Top 5 in the Prem, agree. 6th to 8th in Europa League, agree. And 9th and 10th for the Conference League, 100% agree with that, Tommy. 100% agree. If anything, maybe 6 to 7, 8. Yeah, I agree with that 100% actually. I would go exactly that format. Exactly that. I would not change one thing about that. I love that list. I really wanted Todd Boehly was asking Potter who he wanted. Boehly seems to want anyone he could. Heard about. Exactly my point, Jeff. Exactly what I was saying. I think Potter wasn't headstrong enough to tell Todd Boehly, no, I don't want these players. I think he honestly just felt like, maybe it was a bit of him thinking, I've never had money to spend before. It's like a kid in a candy store. It's like a kid that just got, he just got bought toys when he's never had toys before. You know what I mean? So maybe it was a bit of that. Maybe it was also the fact that maybe Potter actually wanted these players. Maybe he genuinely did. Or maybe it was Todd Boehly saying, look, I want to sign these players. And Potter not being strong enough and not having enough respect for himself to say, no, Todd, let me train the current players. We don't need to sign these many footballers. Who knows? Because remember, Todd Boehly's a novice to football. He's a rookie. It's one thing having the best players in the world, but it's another thing managing those players. Chemistry and managing personalities is so important. And it's, as someone said earlier, it's hard to do with such a massive squad. You've got to make sure you have a reduced squad for that. And Chelsea got too many players and it's hurting them. London is big enough to have its own league and it would still be interesting. Very true, man. Look at all the London teams. You even got teams like Leyton Orient, QPR in there, Fulham, Brentford. West London's stacked. Chelsea, Fulham, Brentford do really well, man. Really good West London. QPR even floating around in there. Really good. What was the first football game you've ever watched? First football game I've ever watched is a 2008 Euros, because my country, Turkey, went so far in it. That's the earliest football I really remember, 2008 Euros. That and the first game I attended was Arsenal-Newcastle. Arsenal won 3-0. I think it was in like 2009 or 2008 or 2007, something like that. That's the first football game I attended. It was at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal won 3-0 against Newcastle United. It was somewhere between 2007 and 2010. So if anyone can find the exact date, search out, that'd be brilliant. But it was somewhere around that. Arsenal beat Newcastle 3-0. I sat in the second row at the Emirates Stadium. That was the first football match I went to. Yeah, I loved it. I'm near Birmingham, so I might watch Good Evening win another European trophy. Hey, yo, I mean, Aston Villa are pushing, you know. Aston Villa are pushing for Europa League spots. They could make it. They're 6th right now. And momentum's a massive thing. And since Unai Emery's walked through the door, he's done an incredible job. And big up Unai Emery as well, because when he got sacked by Arsenal, right, he lost a bit of confidence. And he went back to his roots to Spain to rebuild himself a bit. And that's a really good sign, because it reminds me a lot of Brendan Rodgers. When Brendan Rodgers got sacked by Liverpool, especially after taking them so close to winning the Premier League the season before, he lost a bit of confidence. So he went back to his roots. He went back to his home country, Scotland. And he went and managed Celtic. Celtic are a good team. Celtic are a really good team as well. And he built his confidence back up again. And now he's gone back to Leicester and he's done a decent job. I know he's been sacked now, but he did a good job at Leicester, won the FA Cup. Unai Emery lost a bit of confidence. He went to Villarreal, built a bit of confidence back, took him to the Champions League semi-final, and now he's taking another crack in the Premier League, and he's done an incredible job. Massive respect for Unai Emery, 100%. I'm American, but I still call it football. Good man, Luke. And it's funny you say that, because there's another guy that's subscribed, man, and also usually pops into live chats, who's another person from New York. Well, I don't know if you're from New York, but another person from America. And he supports Crystal Palace as well. So I don't know if there's a big Crystal Palace fan base in America or something. But that's really interesting. It is football. Yes, exactly, Tommy. It's football. Do you like any other sports? Yes, I do. Football I like. I like watching basketball. I like watching American football. I like watching Wimbledon. So tennis, I'd say tennis, but only really Wimbledon I pay attention to be completely honest. And I like watching F1. I watch F1 when I've got the time to. And the quarterfinal stage, they should make both matches at different times. Agree 100%. One at 5:45, one at 8 p.m. would be perfect. Spurs lost to Mura away. That's embarrassing. That's really embarrassing that happened. Really embarrassing. Tommy, I like American football and this type of football I like hockey. Well, you're from America, so I'd expect that. Yeah, I'm a massive American football fan as well. I support the Pittsburgh Steelers. So big up them. Hopefully make the playoffs next season. Hockey. I'm not a massive fan of NHL, to be completely honest. I tried watching both games today, but ended up not really seeing the whole story in either. Napoli did have a great scoring chance inside the first minute. See, that's the thing for me. So I'd rather just pay my attention to one match. So that's what I did. I just put all my attention in Real Madrid versus Chelsea and really try to diagnose that match properly. Anyone that watched the Napoli AC Milan game, feel free to let me know how it went, your thoughts on it. So I'd react to that. But yeah, I just fully watched the Real Madrid Chelsea game, and
It was a decent match. I think it was comfortable for Real Madrid, and once it went down to 10 men, it was pretty much one-way traffic. But yeah, I agree with what I've said and what everyone else has agreed with in the chat. Play both games at different times. We've got to the quarterfinals now. All the games are meant to be interesting, man. Don't do all this pick and choose which game you get to watch. I think 2 European competitions is enough. I see that. I hear that point. 100%, to be completely honest. Was there a need for Europa Conference League? Who knows? I think sides who qualify for Europe from the English Premier League should not play in the Carabao Cup, giving other sides a bigger chance to win the cup. You know what? That's actually a decent idea, Leslie. That's actually a really good idea, Because I made this point the other day, actually. I said that England must be the only country that has got 4 competitions that you can partake in. They've got 2 cup competitions. Why have they got the FA Cup and Carabao Cup? Every other league that I know of has 1 cup competition. They have like the Spanish Cup or like DFK, like whatever, the German Cup, whatever. They have 1 cup. Why in England do we have multiple? I agree. I actually would love that to be the case. Genuinely, I think that's a really good idea. Having the FA Cup as everyone can compete in because that's a historic competition. And then Carabao Cup is for teams that didn't make Europe. I genuinely think that's actually a really good idea, Leslie. I agree with that. Let me know also in the chat if anyone else agrees with that. I think that's a really good idea. I'm getting my cast mode for my arm. Very excited. Big up you for that, man. Big up you for that. I really hope that it heals well and heals as fast as possible. To be honest, Leslie, I've always wanted a British Cup to replace the Carabao Cup. Oh, that would be a good idea as well, Tommy. That would be a really good idea, having teams like, yeah, why not, man? Why not have Rangers, Celtic competing as well? Why not? Are you going to do it, be live for Man United vs Sevilla tomorrow? Yes. I'm going to plan to, of course. So check out my community tab because that's where I put the games that I'm meant to be reacting to, and I'll be live streaming, and I'll also let anyone know there where I'll be if I'm not streaming it. And also check out my Twitter. I'll leave it as a description in this stream. There should be there. My Twitter where I tweet about games as they're being played and also tweet about if I'm not streaming that particular day. So yeah, anyone that wants to keep up the streaming schedule, either check out my community tab on YouTube or check out my Twitter where I talk about the games I'm going to stream and not stream. What are your thoughts on the Hawks and Lakers making the playoffs? Personally, I was surprised Heat lost. I was surprised Heat lost as well, especially given they were at home. The Lakers made it based off overtime, and I think they should have done, given that the Timberwolves didn't even have Rudy Gobert, given he was out because he punched the teammate. That's absolutely crazy to see. But yeah, look, they've got another chance given that they were the 7th and 8th team. Of course, tonight we're going to see the 9th and 10th play each other. But I still think the Heat will get through to the playoffs. I still think they've got enough veteran experience to get through there. Tommy, do you mean England and Scotland? I think it does, to be fair. I think it does. And even Irish teams, Tommy says as well. Yeah, I'd love to see it. I think it's a really good idea. Timberwolves made a mad comeback that fell short. Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. It happens. They're going to have another bite at it at least because they were the 8th seed. Tommy, unfortunately, the Irish teams are only non-league level. Some of the Irish teams aren't great. But I don't blame them because the sport in Ireland is, well, rugby and also Gaelic football. Is that how it... Gaelic football? It's a mad sport. It's genuinely a mad sport. I watched highlights on YouTube when I was in lockdown, Gaelic football, where they bounce it like basketball and they kick it and they also like run with it. It's like a mixture of basketball, rugby and football. It's crazy, Gaelic football. And honestly, I wouldn't mind going and watching a game if I'm ever in Ireland. But yeah, I think that's their main sport rather than actually football. We want to see Barry Town versus Inverness on a cold Tuesday night. That'd be hilarious. Irish and Welsh League is non-league standard, but still, yeah, man. It's the FA Cup and competition like that, man. It's all about vibes. It would attract to make it different. Do we need 2 domestic cups? We don't. Let's be real. Do we need 2 domestic cups? Let's be completely honest about it. Luke, what's your hockey and American football team? New York Rangers and New York Jets. Hey, New York Jets, your NFL team. They've actually made a good recovery. Last season they were quite good. I'm from New York, so I like New York teams. Whoa, I'm a Cleveland Cavaliers. Luke's a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, so I mean, I'd say I wish you the best in the playoffs, but I want the Cavs to beat the Knicks, so I don't wish you the best, to be completely honest. Cavs in 7 for that series. Anyway, I got to go now. See you, mate. Have a good rest of your night. I should be here for United Sevilla tomorrow. I appreciate you tuning in, as always, Luke, and I appreciate anyone else tuning in. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe. You know where to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notifications. My next stream will be tomorrow for Man United versus Sevilla. Most of the Irish teams are not full-time. No surprise whatsoever with that. We have amateurs in the FA Cup, so exactly. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up this stream soon. We've reached 54 minutes. My next stream will be tomorrow, Manchester United versus Sevilla, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Get those notifications on. To wrap up today's game, Real Madrid beat Chelsea 2-0 in convincing fashion. Karim Benzema scored first round the 28th minute for Real Madrid. And then in the second half, despite the fact that Chelsea were looking to break on the counter-attack, they got reduced to 10 men for Chilwell making a last-man tackle on Rodrigo. And then with 30 minutes of the game left, it was basically dig in for Chelsea. They didn't manage to escape with only 1 goal down. They conceded another goal to Marco Asensio, who put Real Madrid 2 goals to the good. And now going to Stamford Bridge, they've got it all to turn around Chelsea. Let's see if they do. In the other game, AC Milan beat Napoli 1-0 and they head to Naples next weekend, which will be another interesting round of Champions League fixtures. I love to see a British league system. I would as well see one, and we discussed that previously. It'll be absolutely brilliant. I love to see teams like Rangers and Celtic in the Premier League or in the Championship, even wherever they qualify. But yeah, I appreciate everyone tuning into the stream. My next stream will be tomorrow, Manchester United versus Sevilla. As always, make sure you subscribe if you're new around here, drop a like, and if anyone's watching this when it's out on YouTube as a video, I really appreciate you also chiming in. Make sure you leave in the comment section your thoughts on the match. I'd love to hear it. I've been Wonderful. I appreciate you all tuning in. I hope to see you all in my next stream. Take care.